Hi, I'm Dr. Rene Hackney. Welcome to Week 4, Part 2 of 8 Weeks to Positive Discipline. In this segment, we'll be talking about logical consequences. There's logical positive and logical negative consequences meant as an endpoint to your discipline exchange. If you've been following along, we've already discussed the foundation steps, which were I messages and empathy to manage emotions and to calm the situation. Positive intent, how we think about children's behaviors, setting the tone for the exchange. Choices, challenges, and contribution, which are the active steps, ways to get behavior change going. And then consequence language is your end point. We've already talked about natural consequences, what just might happen. If you don't get the toys cleaned up, they might get lost or broken. Today, logical consequences, these are more active on the parent part. There's some parent participation here in this consequence. You've got logical negative, which would be if you don't get these toys cleaned up, they're going on the shelf for 2 days. And the parent is the follow through. Or logical positive, if you can get these toys cleaned up quickly, we can have 5 more minutes to play upstairs. If the good behavior, the good related outcome, if the bad behavior, the bad related outcome, and likely there's some active participation there. And so it's thinking about what are things related to that behavior. Logical consequences can be given with a stated warning. Let's say your child has been grabbing toys often, and you say to them, a few days ago, if you are grabbing toys, you may not play with that toy for 10 minutes. And each time the child does that, you're now following through. That's a set warning. Everyone knows what to expect. It can also just kind of crop up. Let's say you're out on a play date and they hurt someone and you say, if that happens again, we're going home. You're letting them know, again, here's a warning. All of that is when life is running smoothly. Every once in a while something happens and there's not a warning for the child on what that consequence is going to be. Let's say child has never hurt anybody and they haul off and really hurt somebody at a play, and you say, since that happened, we're going home. You didn't let the child know that that was coming, and ideally you are, but it happens and it's life and it's fine. It's fine, but you're really pulling it together with the language. You're letting them know with your language that these things are connected and you're following through. When we talked about natural consequences, I said that those are good starting somewhere around 3.5, 4 years old, where they really make sense to the child. Of course, you can say them earlier as a warning, as a part of their thinking process, but when you say to a little 2-year-old, if you're climbing on the shelf, you might get hurt, it's not registering at the level likely that you want it to. With logical consequences, they say these are good at any age. Under 2.5, 3 years old, it's behavior follow-through. Behavior follow through. It's that paired consequence and that matched in time as soon as possible that becomes important. The example that's given there is from La Leche League, which is that support for nursing mothers. And they say even a 4-month-old, you're nursing a 4-month-old baby and the baby bites you, you say ouch and stop nursing for a minute. They bite you again, you say ouch and stop nursing for 2 minutes. You didn't say to the baby, if you bite me, I will stop nursing, but that's what you're doing. It's behavior follow through, behavior follow through. And even the 4-month-old learns that that's paired together. So the idea of this is that the paired follow through is what's important with younger children. As they're getting to be 3.5 years old, the language is much more important. The language can curb the behavior, but you want to make it as soon as possible, even as they get older. To be fair, and this is where these get tricky. Your consequence is supposed to match the child's behavior in time, intensity, and content. Matching in time means you don't miss a play date next week for pinching somebody. It's too far away. By the time they get to that missed play date, they have forgotten pinching their sister last week. You want it to be as soon as possible, and under 3.5 years old, behavior follow through. As they get to be 4 and 5 years old, it might be a little later in the day. As they get to be 8 years old, it might be the next day. But you want it as soon as possible to have the most meaning for that behavior. Intensity is the level. If you don't get the toys cleaned up, they're going on the shelf for 2 days. If you don't get the toys cleaned up, we're closing the playroom this afternoon. Those are matched in level. When you're too intense, parents say things like, if you don't get the toys cleaned up, I'm giving all your toys to Goodwill. you don't mean it. It's too big. And so the idea is you're saying something you probably don't mean. You're probably not comfortable doing. And if you are, it's the big guns, and now everybody's crying and they've lost sight of the thing that you said. And so the idea of it is you want the intensity to match. You want to be at the same level as their behavior. If you put time and intensity together, you don't get to hold out Disney Vacation in August for good behavior in May. It is too far away, and it's enormous. If I pinch her, we're not going to Disney, that doesn't make any sense. It's way bigger than the behavior. Content is the hardest match. So you want to match time, intensity, and content. Content is what gives it the logical title. Content is what keeps the child on topic, thinking about the behavior. I'll give you an example of matched in content. Let's say my girls are being mean to each other. And I say, if you all are mean to each other, you'll have to play in separate rooms. If you all are mean to each other, you'll have to put away the game you're playing. If you all are mean to each other, you have to find 5 nice things to say about each other. The idea of all of those is they're related in content. They're on topic about behaving with sister. When you don't match in content, you say things like, if you are mean to your sister, I'm throwing away your Halloween candy. And kids go, what? Because that has nothing to do with sister. You've just taken them off thinking about the behavior. They're not thinking about sister. They're thinking about preserving their candy. That's the difference here between a logical negative consequence versus removing privilege. Removing privilege, it might work. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Throwing away the candy, and the threat of throwing away the candy, that you might gain some of that behavior. But when you take them off topic, you're just kind of treading water in the long run. You have to threaten it again the next day and threaten it again the next day because they're not learning about the behavior. In theory here, this is why negative logical consequences more tied to the behavior are more effective in the long run than just removing those unrelated privileges. You want to keep them on topic with the behavior. All of those examples I just gave you were logical negative. Logical positive are if the good behavior, the good related outcome. If you can speak nicely to your sister, you can finish the game now. If you can speak nicely to your sister, I'll play with you. You're encouraging, you're aiming toward that wanted behavior. When you go to the logical positives, it's still matched in time, intensity, and content. Matched in time as soon as possible. Matched in intensity, you don't want to go really big with these great big things, and matched in content on topic with the behavior. Often when you don't match in content with the negative, it's that removing privileges. When you don't match in the positive, you're often giving rewards. Stickers, star charts, M&Ms, dollars for behavior. All of this, again, takes the child off the behavior. I'll give you an example of the difference between the logical positive versus giving rewards. Let's say I'm a second grade teacher and I say to my class, for every book you read, you get a sticker. The class with the most stickers gets pizza on Friday. I am increasing the interest in stickers and pizza. I'm decreasing the interest in reading. Books are the obstacle in the way. I'm going to read as short as fast as books I can. I might lie about the books I'm reading because I want stickers and pizza. And if we calculate as a class, we are not getting the pizza. We're on strike on Wednesday. No one is reading because it's not about the reading. It becomes quickly about the stickers and the pizza. You want kids to stay on topic. And so the idea here is if you're going to set up something where you're giving them these positives, you want positive logical consequences, things related to behavior. And so it might be saying, for every book you read, you can check out an extra book. For every book you read, you can have more reading time. The class with the most books gets double story time on Friday, or even gets to watch the movie that goes with the book on Friday. You pair reading with reading, you pair that story, and you're not at least messing with that intrinsic motivation. You're keeping them on topic of that behavior. So this is how we create the logical positives and the logical negatives. They're things related to behavior in time, intensity, and content. What I'd like you to do now is the parent practice items for logical consequences. I want you to go through that list of 5 and give a logical negative and a logical positive. If you don't have the outline, you can stop the video and go to parentingbydrrene.com. The list of outlines is there under YouTube outlines, and find week 4. Under week 4, we're on logical consequences. What I'm going to do now is walk you through the answers to those parent practice items. So if you'd like some time to do them first, turn off the video, do your parent practice items, and then turn it back on and we'll review. So these parent practice items, the first one, and these are the same examples that we used with natural consequences. I want parents to recognize that for almost every behavior children do, a natural is available, a logical negative, a logical positive, and you really, at least for the purposes of taking these workshop segments, is you want to practice and try each one of these. Give it a go for what each of these feel like and sound like in your discipline exchanges. So that first parent practice, 2 3-year-olds are pulling on a coloring book, each is yelling that they had it first. A logical negative would start, if you keep pulling, and it would be, if you keep pulling, I'm going to put the books on the shelf for the day. If you keep pulling, you'll have to sit at separate tables. A logical positive would start, if you all can work this out, you can sit together. I'll color with you. You can pick your own pages. We'll get out the glitter markers. Glitter markers feel like a reward, and they're probably right there on the line, the difference between a positive logical versus a reward. But the idea is they're still related to the coloring. Claire's mom and dad are almost ready for work. They put her in the living room to play. She's getting undressed. There's a positive logical built right in there. They put her in the living room to play. If you can stay dressed in the mornings, you can play. Or if you're in a good mood and you have time, if you can get dressed really fast, you got 5 more minutes to play. In the negative, if you're getting undressed in the mornings, you'll have to sit where I can see you. No playtime. We had a mom who said her child liked to pick her own thing. So if you can stay dressed in the mornings, you can pick your coat and your shoes. That's a logical negative, logical positive. If you're getting undressed, I'll pick those things. You're on your way to sports practice, 5-year-old is crawling around in the back seat. With a logical negative, there's a lot of parents who go straight for the big guns. They say, if you are out of your seat, I am not taking you to practice. If you say that, you need to mean it. They're not in their car seat, you go back in the house, you're not taking them to practice this time. There are so many smaller things you could do that still get you to practice. And so starting with things that are smaller, you might say in the positive logical, if you can get in your car seat on your own, I'll give you time to do the buckle. If you can get in your car seat, you can play with the car toys. If you can get in the car seat, you can pick the music we listen to. Those are all things related to riding in the car. On the opposite, the logical negative, if I have to wrestle you in, no music. If I have to wrestle you in, no car toys. It's this idea that you've got the positive logical and the negative logical that are smaller, and any of them you still are head toward practice. 8-year-old is procrastinating with homework. You've reminded her it's time to work. She turns on the TV. So if your family typically does homework time, a little bit of TV time, dinner, it is fair game to say, if you finish your homework on time, you can watch some TV. If homework is a big hassle tonight, no TV. It's related, it's part of your sequence, and so it becomes a logical consequence. If, however, you're the family that never allows TV on weekdays, but out of desperation on a Wednesday you say, if you get your homework done in time, you can watch TV. That's a reward in your house. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. Again, you're welcome to do that, but no, it's the short-term fix as opposed to working on the bigger behaviors. 3-year-old yelling at the 5-year-old. If you are yelling, you'll have to play in a separate room. If you are yelling, we'll have silence for 5 minutes. If you can speak nicely, you can stay together. I'll help you clean it up. I'll help you play the game. These logical negatives and logical positives are meant to be the endpoint of a discipline exchange. So there's a few guidelines for following through once you've stated these logical consequences. Let's say you've already said to the kids who are pulling on the coloring books, if you're pulling on those coloring books, I'm going to put them on the shelf for the day. Reminders in the positive. When they sit down and they're doing well, you want to give that some attention. Look at you all sharing these books. Oh, this is so fun. It's just reminding them of the wanted behavior. Follow through consistently means either follow through the first time, they 5 minutes later are pulling on the coloring books and you say, okay, that's it, I'm putting them on the shelf for the day. Or one warning and then follow through. One warning would be, hey, I said I'm going to put the books away. This is your warning. Does everyone understand? You're letting them know just the one warning, and then you're putting the books away. What you don't want to be is the parent who gives 6 or 7 warnings. I said stop pulling. Why are you not listening? Stop pulling on the books. And you're going over and over and over. They're learning to tune you out. They're learning you don't mean it. And so this idea is one warning is plenty. And then once given, don't waver. So whether you gave the warning or not, you're following through. You put the books away and you said, I'm putting them away for the day. They're away for the day. If the child crying and complaining gets the books back 2 or 3 minutes later, it becomes a big game of give and take. When you take those books, you're not fixing today. You're fixing the next go round. One, you kept them on topic. They're learning about if we get along this way, this is what happens. But you also are teaching them when I say it, I mean it, and I'm following through. So they know the next time when you say, if this, they know you're going to follow through. So the idea is to build some consistency in your language and your follow through. These logical consequences are meant as an endpoint. In the next segment, I'm going to review with you all of the steps. Granted, in real life, you wouldn't use all the steps in one exchange, but you want to see how they all kind of fit together. And then in the next segment, we'll talk about how when there's aggressive behaviors, when they're hitting or kicking or biting, this might all work backwards. Thank you.